Yo, what's good? Welcome into the show. This is Philadelphia Eagles Now, and we're live right here on Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr. Hope all of you out there are having a fantastic Wednesday on this June 5th of 2024, and no matter where you are or how you're tuned in, we appreciate all of you for making today's show a part of your day. Eagles on the practice field right now for day 2 of Mandatory Minicamp. So on the show, we're going to pass along some practice updates, all of the latest news, some analysis, and of course the latest Philadelphia Eagles buzz. Here's the rundown and everything that you can expect on the most interactive, informative, thought-provoking Eagles show right here on YouTube. We're of course going to pass along all of the latest live practice updates. We're going to go through our post-June 1 trade targets for Philadelphia, players who the Birds could trade for, some Eagles breakout candidates following mandatory minicamp, and that's really going to work off of some of the players who have really shined so far throughout mandatory minicamp as well as OTAs. And then we're going to round out with the mailbag. Get your questions in right now for our Q&A. Use the hashtag Eagles, or you can send in a super chat to be a part of the show. Let's get the comment section going here. Where are you watching from? The recent commenter club. I see Don Ackerley, IBH, Aaron Leby, King Javier, Dragon, 63 Mortis, Tarek Teal, Aaron Leby, all in the chat. But let us know where exactly you're watching from, and we'll start to give you some shout-outs here. Aaron is in Pennsylvania. King Javier is in York, Pennsylvania. Earth is tuned in from planet Earth, specifically Petersburg, Virginia. Don Ackerley in West Tennessee. IBH Delco, yo! Hazleton, Pennsylvania from Frank Barr. I used to work out in Scranton, Hazleton, Nepa area. Moses is in Texas. Yo, California country from Stephen Conkle. 63 Mortis from Kentucky. Paul tuned in from New Orleans. Our guy, Paul. It's good to see you. New Haven, Connecticut from Berto 824. And to everybody who has those notifications on, type me. Because if you have that bell icon on, that means that you're a real one. And that means that anytime we go live, you're notified. And you're one of the first people who's hanging out here with us. Kendra, Virginia in the building. I see King, Earth, Don. They all have the notifications on. Frank Barr, I remember when you were the sports guy on WNEP. I did a little sports from time to time. Way too much news for my liking, especially given the climate at the time. Paul saying me. I mean we, because there's no I in team. I kind of like where you're going with that, Paul. Richard Moore typing me. Dragon saying hello. He's tuned in as always from Serbia. I don't even know what time it is over there. Be sure to give myself a follow and producer Chip a follow. The two men behind this Eagles YouTube channel who give you coverage every single day. If you want to get to know us further, stay in the know, and just hang out with us on air, off air, give us a follow on X. I'm at Chase_Senior, and then producer Chip. He's trying to grow the X account at Jake Chipper. And with that, Chip, what it do, brother?
Yo! How we do, everybody? Let's get it. Who's excited? Let's talk some Birds today, man. Some football, players on the field. I'm excited. Doesn't get much better than this.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. And speaking of players on the field, we do have some still images from yesterday that we can show you. The Eagles' first-round pick, 22nd overall, the cornerback out of Toledo, Quinion Mitchell, rocking the number 30. Here he is doing a drill, pursuing the football. And then here you see new Eagle Devin White and Reed Blankenship going through some defensive drills. It looks like Reed Blankenship just wants to punch that football out of the ball carrier right there. Devin White looking fresh in the number 45. This right here is a beautiful sight. What a backfield the Eagles have now with Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley. A.J. Brown did a press conference this morning right before practice, and he said that Saquon has been so impressive. And then Dallas Goedert was speaking with the media. He said that Saquon leads the charge of having about 10 Eagles players golf at least once a week. Can you imagine just going out to the golf course one time and you're like, is that 10 Eagles players right there, including Saquon and Dallas Goedert? It would be so entertaining to just pick up the clubs, not even golf any longer, to see how well they play. And I imagine that the camaraderie there is pretty good. But can you imagine what a tensome is like? It must be 3 different groups that goes out consecutively. A group before. But then my question is, who's kind of left with the small group with that group of 2? Either way, number 1, number 26 in the backfield for the Birds. I can't wait to see the Eagles in action there. And Saquon Barkley, most talented running back that this Eagles team has had since LaShawn McCoy. Here is the franchise quarterback in Jalen Hurts. He's thrown a couple of interceptions during OTAs as well as during minicamp. But keep in mind, he's learning a new system. The route concepts are fresh. Some of the terminology is brand new as well. I think that Hurts has a bounce-back season, and we see Hurts from start to finish look more like the Hurts version of 2022 when he was the runner-up to win NFL MVP as compared to the Hurts who struggled at the end of last year. Nick Sirianni did hold a press conference yesterday, rocking the Phillies hat, best team in baseball. You know that Sirianni is always going to tap into whatever is hot in the Philadelphia sports scene and support the squads across the city. And a couple of takeaways that I had from what Sirianni had to say. James Bradberry getting snaps at safety and nickel. He really likes the wide receiver 3 depth. Now, James Bradberry not practicing today because he did get hurt yesterday. So we'll continue to monitor that injury. Elsewhere on the Eagles injury front, Trevor Keegan, the rookie left guard, not practicing today either. Not sure why, but as soon as we get that information, we'll pass that along to you. Here is our Super Chat menu for our Wednesday live show. Last week, we got $120 in Super Chats on the show as we were live during OTAs. Can we beat that number? $10 Super Chat, you pick a player who you want to talk about, and we'll talk about that player. $20, you can spin the wheel. $50 for a beer bong, $100 for a shotgun. Let's have a party right here on the show. And here is our wheel. A couple of fun things that we can do. Eagles chant, 20 push-ups, smelling salts. We can sing Fly Eagles Fly, sing No One Likes Us, We Don't Care. You can ring the Liberty Bell as well. Let's spin that wheel and let's have a day. Davante Smith, fresh off his contract extension. I like what he had to say yesterday when he said, you can't worry about somebody else's pockets, because people were saying, Davante, you're getting $25 million per year. On that new contract extension, did you sign it too early, considering that the wide receiver market really continues to explode, and now you might be looked at as underpaid? That was his response to that. Davante Smith, the team player, and cranky Joe Banner, who used to be the basically de facto general manager for the Eagles in the early 2000s, running the front office alongside Andy Reid, went on X and was like, Davante Smith should fire his agent. Absolutely ridiculous. He shouldn't have to do that. It's still a really good deal for him, but also a team-friendly deal so that the Eagles continue to be competitive. Oh! Dennis Designs, a $50 Super Chat. Dennis Designs. Dennis Designs. Dennis Designs. Appreciate that 50. I will do a beer bong at the end of the show. Beer bong at the end of the show for the $50 Super Chat. But let's spin that wheel right now for our guy, Dennis Designs. And already, we're making inroads on taking down our Super Chat number from last week. So let's spin that wheel for Dennis. Let's see what we land on here. $100 Super Chat will get us past that, and I'll shotgun. This is perfect for Dennis because he loves this song. No one likes us. No one likes us. No one likes us. We don't care. We're from Philly, fucking Philly. No one likes us. We don't care. No one likes us. No one likes us. No one likes us. We don't care. We're the Eagles, the fucking Eagles. No one likes us. We don't care. E-A-G-L-E-S. A-G-L-E-S, Eagles! How about Paul checking in with the $10 super chat? Louisiana Paul. And he asked this: do you think that if we make it to the playoffs with Kelce still in the building, will he put the pads back on for a chance at the Super Bowl? Paul, what a fascinating question there. And I imagine if Jason Kelce is watching the Eagles embark on a magical season and a Super Bowl run, he probably thinks to himself that I decide to hang it up a little bit too early. The reality is, though, if the Eagles make it that far and they're playing that well with Cam Jurgens at center, you're just not going to sit him down. What you're going to say is, Kelce, you're a future Hall of Famer. Respectively, you decided to retire. Cam Jurgens, we drafted him as your replacement. We're going to continue to move forward with Cam Jurgens. Thank you for everything that you've done. You're one of the best centers of all time, if not the best, and certainly the best center in the history of the Philadelphia Eagles organization. Another practice development that I want to talk about here is something that Lane Johnson revealed yesterday before practice. And then as the Eagles were practicing, guess who is stepping in at starting left guard in place for Landon Dickerson, who is the only player not partaking in mandatory minicamp? He has an excused absence. Mekhi Becton. Mekhi Becton was getting the first team left guard snaps, and Lane Johnson said that he's been very impressive both at tackle and at guard. Mekhi Becton is such a fascinating player because he was drafted in the first round by the New York Jets back in 2020. He's still only 25 years old. And this is a mammoth of a man who, under the tutelage of Jeff Stoutland, after struggling mightily with the Jets the last couple of years, after a really good rookie season, he's lost his confidence. He lost his starting role. But can Philadelphia find a way to extract the best out of Mekhi Becton? He probably went to the best organization he could have in Philadelphia, considering Stoutland is the best offensive line coach in the NFL, and you have players who have really developed with Philadelphia along the offensive line. Jason Kelce still playing a role in the organization. You can also learn from Lane Johnson, who's probably the best right tackle of this generation. And Mekhi Becton is a player who is 6'7", 342 pounds, a monster of a man who could play tackle and be your swing tackle, or play guard in a pinch if he does need to. A practice update here for the Eagles pertaining to James Bradberry's injury. Not sure what Bradberry's injury is. Yesterday at practice, he was getting reps at slot nickel and at safety, and then he quickly exited with an injury. And once again today, he was on the side field, and he is not practicing. Guess who is at Eagles practice? Randomly, Jalen Brunson, Villanova legend, and unfortunately a New York Knicks legend who knocked out the Sixers in the first round of the playoffs. But he's there. James Bradberry not participating right now. He's currently speaking with Vic Fangio. And in addition to Jalen Brunson being there, Lynn Greer III, who transferred to Temple, his dad, Lynn Greer, a Temple legend, helped lift them to the Elite Eight in the early 2000s under John Chaney, and Don DeSandro, all talking collectively together right now. Interesting stuff. Interesting stuff. All right, we have nearly 100 people watching live, and we haven't even started the show yet. That is fantastic news. We're going to do a mailbag today. Use the hashtag Eagles or send in a super chat to get involved on the show. But also, I need everybody right now to hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. If you're ready to start the show, you're ready to talk some Eagles, I need you to like the video. The more likes that we get, the more people who find the stream, the more fun that we can have. And let's get the audience growing here on this Wednesday before the show starts so that people can see what Eagles Now brings to the table. So how many likes can we pick up in the next minute? We're up to 30 now. Continue to pepper that thumbs up icon, and then we will start the show in under a minute here. King Javier, Dennis Designs, OnlyFans, nice.
Oh.
Donnell Lewis, Millie315, all in the comment section right now. We're up to 95 people watching live with 40 likes. Can we get to 50?
Come on.
In the next 30 seconds. We're 11 away. We're up to 46.
Let's go, baby.
Can we smash that number of 50 likes and just dominate the stream? Earth liked the video. King Javier liked the video. Dragon, he said he's ready to start. Donnell Lewis, using the hashtag Eagles. We are past 50 likes. We're ready to get the show underway. And what we're going to do is start off with some post-June 1 trade targets for the Philadelphia Eagles. A couple of blockbuster names included in this list. Chip's ready to go. I'm ready to go. The Bird Gang ready to rock. We're $60 in Super Chats away from tying our number from last week. Let's go, Birds. And let's start the show. Yo, what's good? Welcome into the show. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles Now by Chat Sports. I am your fearless leader, Chase Sr. No matter where you are, how you're tuned in, we appreciate all of you for making today's show a part of your day. As for what we're getting into, some post-June 1 trade targets for Philadelphia. Players who could get dealt by other teams, who could be of interest for Howie Roseman to bring on this roster to chase that Super Bowl. A couple of these players of the blockbuster variety, a couple of these players could really help this team on both sides of the rock. And we start off with today's poll question, which is this. You think of some of the trade candidates when you canvass the league and look at the other 31 teams in the NFL. And which name comes to mind as your dream Eagles trade target? I want everybody watching right now to share that name with me down below in the comment section. We might include that player in a future video. Post-June 1 trade target number 1. And obviously, we're talking about these post-June 1 trade targets because a lot of teams have freed up cap space. They've gained cap space in Philadelphia. They're still sitting pretty with their cap space, $25 million at their disposal. And I want to begin with Budda Baker, a player who we've talked about on the show a couple of times here. The Eagles so far at OTAs and at minicamp with their first-string safety tandem, it's been C.J. Gardner-Johnson and Reed Blankenship. As for some players notably getting backup reps, that includes Avonte Maddox, who historically with Philadelphia has been a slot nickel corner, and James Bradberry, who was awful on the outside as a corner last year. And even though at the NFL Scouting Combine, when we were there and we asked Howie Roseman about the future of Bradberry, of whether or not he was going to be on this team and what position he could play, Howie at the time said that Bradberry, strictly an outside corner, but clearly the Eagles have changed their opinions of Bradberry and where they might be able to use him because he's getting slot nickel reps, he's getting safety reps. Sidney Brown right now, a player who I think has a lot of promise. He's recovering from a torn ACL, so he's not yet participating in these OTA or minicamp practices. And with that, I pose this question. What do you think a Budda Baker trade would do? What I think it would accomplish for Philadelphia, a couple of things here. It makes you better in the secondary. This is a player who you can use all around the secondary. Budda Baker is on an expiring deal, and he's a very accomplished player who's been in the NFL for 7 years. And in 6 of those 7 seasons, he has been named either to an all-pro team or he has been named as a Pro Bowler. And Arizona is still in this phase right now where they are rebuilding. So instead of letting one of their franchise icons walk for nothing, do they elect to trade him to get some value back? Trade target number 2 post-June 1. Baltimore Ravens wide receiver Rashod Bateman. If Philadelphia is not convinced that John Ross, Paris Campbell, Anaya Smith, Britton Covey, Joseph Nagata can be their wide receiver 3, do you decide to target a player who up to this point, since being a first-round pick a few years ago, has been a little bit of a disappointment? You put him into your player development factory, and you're banking on the fact that you'd be able to turn Rashod Bateman into a solid player, a good complementary wideout at that wide receiver 3 spot, and you can maximize the player here. Now, there's no question that the first 3 years of his career have been disappointing. He has not surpassed 400 receiving yards in the last 2 years. The Ravens did sign him to a contract extension, but it is very, very affordable. $5 million over the next 3 years, that's actually a good bargain for wide receiver 3 money. In Bateman's first 3 years, as a rookie, he comes out 46 catches, 515 yards, and a touchdown in 12 games played. In 2022, he only plays 6 games, only has 15 catches, 285 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And then last year, he was able to play 16 games, so his first full season pretty much at the NFL level, and he set a career high for catches, not for yards though, because the yards only at 367 and still only 1 touchdown. A buy low, potential high upside trade target for the Eagles here. Trade target number 3, Miles Sanders, the former Eagle who's currently a running back with the Carolina Panthers. And last week we talked about signing Miles Sanders if he were to be a post-June 1 cut by the Carolina Panthers. As of right now, he has not been let go, but could the Panthers look to deal him away? In 2022 with Philadelphia, in the final year of his contract, en route to the Birds making it to the Super Bowl, winning the NFC, he put together the first 1,000-yard rushing season for an Eagles running back since LaShawn McCoy all the way back in 2014. He parlays that into a monster contract with Carolina for the running back market and what it was at the time, but he struggled in a terrible offense last year with the Panthers. And I think that the Panthers' actions speak loudly here. They signed Sanders to a multi-year deal, yet in the second round, with the new regime as far as the coaching staff, they took Jonathan Brooks, the Texas running back, coming off a torn ACL, in the second round of the draft. So clearly they look at Brooks as the number 1 running back in the future for Carolina. Last 4 years for Sanders, his Eagles career was certainly an up and down one where he was a very, very productive player who up until the final year of his rookie contract never surpassed 1,000 yards. But again, no Eagle running back had done that since LaShawn McCoy. And his career in Philadelphia kind of marred by injuries, inconsistent play. Sometimes he'd have to deal with some nicks and knacks, so he wasn't able to really fully display what he's capable of doing. What he did consistently do, though, is pull off some splash plays and a couple of really good moments. And then finally in 2022, he did put it all together. And he did have a career year. And he did stay healthy. And he was very consistent. Top 5 among all running backs in rushing yards with nearly 1,300. And he found pay dirt 11 times. But last year, the numbers, not good at all. 3.3 yards per carry, 129 totes for only 432 yards. He only found the end zone 1 time. Let's go to the defensive side of the ball once again with Tremaine Edmunds, the linebacker for the Chicago Bears, who was a big disappointment in the Windy City last year. In the 2023 offseason, he got a bag from Chicago. He signed a 4-year, $72 million contract. To be real, he didn't live up to that. In fact, he was outshined by another linebacker who the Bears signed in that same free agency period, a player who a lot of you know very well, TJ Edwards, a former UDFA out of Wisconsin, who ended up making the roster year 1 as a roster fringe player and special teamer. He developed into a very, very good linebacker for the Eagles, and then he got some decent coin from Chicago. And while we're talking about some of these players on this list, by the way, I think I mentioned earlier the Eagles had $25 million in cap space. After June 1, that number has actually gone up to $27.4 million. So they can afford to pay some of the players who we're talking about on today's show. I wasn't lying when I said that Edmunds really struggled last year. Overall Pro Football Focus grade of 56.5, a run defense grade of 57.5, a pass rush grade of 42.5, a coverage grade of 58.3, and when he was targeted in coverage, he gave up a passer rating of 103 flat. At number 5, and we're halfway through our list here with 5 more players to go, Bengals wide receiver T. Higgins. He asked to be traded. He has not been dealt, obviously, by Cincinnati. Is he going to hold out from mandatory minicamp as well as training camp? That is the storyline that we will continue to monitor. This is a move that the Eagles would make if they just want to say, you know what, F it, let's go all in. And let's run out a wide receiver trio that could be one of the best of all time and one of the scariest that we've ever seen. And A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and T. Higgins. That would simply be ridiculous. The Bengals have not extended him. I think he certainly deserves it because he's a great complimentary wide receiver to Jamar Chase. You want to do everything that you can to put weapons around your quarterback, who's a franchise guy like Joe Burrow is. And even though Higgins has requested a trade, that has not been fulfilled by Cincinnati. Last 4 years for Higgins, he has been a highly productive player. 2020, 67 grabs, 908 yards, and 6 touchdowns. That's really when he started to turn some heads across the NFL. In 2021, career year for him, 74 catches, almost 1,100 yards, and 6 touchdowns. In 2022, he was great once again. Still 74 catches once again. Yards per catch goes down a little bit. Touchdowns go up by 1. And even though last year he missed 5 games, still very productive. Career high in yards per catch, 42 grabs, 656 yards, and 5 touchdowns. And if Howie were to make this move, this is basically the translation of it. Thug life, savage Howie Roseman with the glasses, the cigarette in, a couple of chains with the cornrows, because I think that he would break the minds of a lot of people across the National Football League. Before we continue to move forward on today's post-June 1 trade targets video, don't forget to subscribe to us here on Eagles Now, the largest independently run Eagles channel right here on YouTube. Whenever the Eagles make a move, whenever there's some buzz, there's juice, there's a rumor out there, we dissect it, we break it down, go Birds, and hit that sub button. These brotherly shove shirts, first of all, the design, phenomenal. I had to get one for myself. I rocked it the other day when I was on a run in Dallas. A lot of people were looking at me weird. You know what I did? I said, go Birds. On sale right now for just $22. Chatsports.com/brotherly shove. You have the X's and O's. Jalen Hurts going right up the gut, squatting 500, 600 pounds on his way to the paint. Let's go through our other trade targets here. Courtland Sutton, wide receiver for the Denver Broncos. He, like a lot of these other players on this list, is looking for a new contract extension. Broncos head coach Sean Payton thinks that Sutton will report to mandatory minicamp, but that is not a sure thing as of right now. The Broncos quarterback situation in an interesting spot. They traded for Zach Wilson. They drafted Bo Nix very, very high. Sean Payton clearly likes Bo Nix a lot if they were to draft him that high, but if you're Sutton, you're looking for a bag. You're just looking for some consistent quarterback play because he hasn't been able to have that in a little while. And because of that, that's why the production has dipped a little bit. Still been a productive player, but probably not as great as it could be if Sutton were to pair up with a really good QB. Last year in 2023, 59 grabs, 772 yards, and 10 touchdowns. So this is a player that despite the yards being down, the touchdowns last year were certainly up. I don't think he's a number 1. I do think that he's a really solid number 2 or number 3 on a playoff contending team. We remain at wide receiver with Skyy Moore of the Kansas City Chiefs. Why do I know that name? A lot of you might be asking yourselves that question. I didn't want to do this, but I had to do it because this was my first thought when I thought about the name Skyy Moore, and that is his touchdown against the Philadelphia Eagles in Super Bowl 57 in Glendale, Arizona, when the Eagles got fooled not once, but twice on kind of that pre-snap motion play. Skyy Moore on one side, Kadarius Toney on another side, and the Eagles defense, led by Jonathan Gannon, who was awful in that second half, did not make any adjustments. They were completely schooled on that same play call, that same wrinkle. Skyy Moore is a player who, I'm not going to say he's on the roster bubble, but what are his opportunities going to be because of what the Chiefs have done at that wide receiver position? 2 drafts ago, they drafted Rashee Rice out of SMU. Legal situation pending. We'll see what happens with that. Marquise Brown, they signed him in free agency, otherwise known as Hollywood Brown, and then they drafted Xavier Worthy in the first round. So they have picked up a couple of players in Brown and Worthy who are 4'2", 4.3 speedsters, and that's just so lethal and dangerous for quarterback Patrick Mahomes. Skyy Moore had a disappointing year last year, up and down as far as his availability and definitely his production, as the Chiefs' wide receiving core just was not good, and Patrick Mahomes still able to win a Super Bowl. It's ridiculous. 21 catches, 244 yards, a touchdown along a 54. The production really not there. Could he be looking for a change of scenery? And is the writing on the wall that he could get dealt given what the Chiefs have done at the wide receiver position? A blockbuster trade once again where Howie Roseman would go straight thug life on these fools. Davante Adams of the Las Vegas Raiders. Recently, he was on his teammate's podcast, Max Crosby, and this is what he said about leaving the Green Bay Packers. I don't regret what I did, but at the same time, it's definitely, you look back on it like, damn, that boy Jordan Love, he's kind of balling right now. That's interesting. I kind of sense regret. And Davante Adams, you could go from a garbage organization that never wins any big games, rarely makes it to the playoffs, rarely has any sustained success, to an elite one in Philadelphia. And the same talking point can be made for Davante Adams that we discussed with T. Higgins. You want to go all in, put your nuts on the table, say F it, and you want to have one of the best wide receiving cores ever? A.J. Brown, Avonte Smith, Davante Adams. Even though he has had bad quarterback play and inconsistent quarterback play the last 2 years with the Raiders, his production has still been very, very good. We're talking about a player who's caught 203 balls over the last 2 years for just an insane amount of yards and is still combined for bad offenses for 21 touchdowns the last 2 years. A great route runner, precise footwork, great hands, and has everything to his route tree. Once again, we cue up this photo. Howie Roseman is savage if he pulls off a trade for one of these blockbuster players. Coming in at number 9 is Matthew Judon, the edge rusher for the New England Patriots. He did not attend Patriots OTAs with the post-Bill Belichick era underway, and he skipped those OTAs because he's looking for a new deal. He is a 31-year-old edge rusher who's coming off a biceps tear, but this is a player who's been able to age really well, and in fact, as he's gotten older, he's kind of gotten better. He's been a very durable player throughout his career. Unfortunately for last year, a biceps tear can sometimes be a fluky injury, but he was off to a tremendous start. We saw what he was able to do against Philadelphia in week 1. 4 sacks and 9 quarterback hits in 4 games. Season before that, he racked up 15.5 sacks. Before that, 12.5. And then with the Ravens back in 2020, 6 sacks and 21 quarterback hits. Coming in at number 10 is not a player who the Eagles could trade for, but a player who the Eagles could trade themselves. So let me switch it up on y'all, and it's James Bradberry, a player who the Eagles could deal away. And I was going through some Bradberry numbers, especially after Nick Sirianni had said that he's going to get some safety and nickel corner reps. And I wanted to compare his 2022 numbers when he was excellent to his 2023 production where he was just awful. And my goodness, did he fall off a cliff. As I've said here on the show, it is difficult to gauge how bad individual players were last year because the scheme was so terrible. But the eye test told us that Bradberry was lost. Overall Pro Football Focus grade in 2022 of 74.1. He had a coverage grade of 80.2. A passer rating allowed when targeted of just 54.2. He had 3 picks, and that came on 675 coverage snaps. He was one of the highest graded corners in the entire NFL. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about a player in Bradberry who in 2022 was a second-team All-Pro. He got cooked and washed overnight because in 2023, the numbers on the right side of your screen, overall Pro Football Focus grade down to 56.6, coverage grade down to 54.7, passer rating doubled to 108.6 when targeted, only had 1 pick. I look at interceptions as sacks. It's not the full tell as far as how good a player is, and the coverage snaps last year went up for James Bradberry. And the missed tackle rate was also an issue. Cover your eyes. I know that you already looked at some of those numbers, but the point here being not good at all. If you enjoyed today's show, you were informed, you hung around until the end, I want you to type real one down below in the comment section. As you venture down there, don't forget to hit that subscribe button for daily and year-round coverage on the EAGLES. Great stuff to kick off the show for segment number 1. Aaron Levy, what's going on with the Eagles? Well, what's going on this show? We already have $60 in Super Chats. Last week, we got to 120. The mission for today, can we beat it? I do owe Dennis Designs a beer bong at the end of the show. $10, pick a player to discuss. $20, we'll spin the wheel. $50 for a beer bong, $100 for a shotgun. That's the Super Chat menu. More practice updates for Philadelphia here. You can go full screen here, Chip, if you want to. The Eagles practicing the new kickoff format for the first time in front of the media. Ty Davis-Price, Britton Covey, Anaya Smith, Kenny Gainwell, and Lou Nichols took kick return reps. C.J. Gardner-Johnson and John Ross stood near the returners, but did not take a rep where they got the ball. That's interesting. Quinion Mitchell, first team cornerback reps, opposite of Darius Slay. So the rookie first round pick getting some first team snaps here today. Interesting stuff. Jake Elliott has been awesome with the kickoffs with the new rules. He's putting the kick exactly where you want it, around the 5, because if it goes out of bounds or in the end zone, you're in trouble. Britton Covey was the first kickoff returner. Isaiah Rodgers starting at cornerback 2 today. So I know that Quinion Mitchell, we just said, was getting first-team reps. Isaiah Rodgers did start. So Slay, Rodgers, Maddox, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Reed Blankenship, the starting secondary. Cooper DeJean playing outside corner with the second-team defense. So he's getting a look there. Nakobe Dean starting with the second-team linebackers again behind Zach Bond and Devin White. So again, second day in a row in which Dean is running with the 2s. Reed Blankenship intercepted Jalen Hurts again. Stepped in front of a route and picked him off. Hurts threw it right to him. And those are the latest practice updates. Jalen Brunson, a huge cast on his left hand because he did break a bone. In case you're an NBA fan. And then James Bradberry out practice today with an undisclosed injury. Dennis Designs! Asking about Avonte Maddox's Pro Football Focus grades. We can give you those.
The Dennis Designs Avonte Maddox beef is truly legendary.
It really is. Okay, Chase, please give me Avonte Maddox's Pro Football Focus grade. And let me know how many Pro Bowls, MVPs, or any other noteworthy claims he has to his name. It's just crazy to me that we can't do better than him. All right, you asked for Avonte Maddox Pro Football Focus grades. I'll read those off for you. Let's take a look here. So last year, obviously he didn't play a lot. Only 104 coverage snaps. He had a coverage grade of 45.2, a run defense grade of 76.4, and an overall grade of 50.6. I'm not going to knock him on that because he barely played, right? Dennis, in 2022, he did get injured late in the year against Dallas, but he had an overall grade of 71.3, a pass rush grade of 77.6, and a coverage grade of 70.3. Those three categories that I listed out for you, all in the green. He had a passer rating allowed of 92.5. So is he the best slot nickel corner in the NFL? No. Is he serviceable? For sure. Has he played at a pretty high level? At times, yes. Has he been injured way too much? There's no doubt about it. Paul, a $10 super chat. What are your opinions about a comeback tour with the tight end legend Zack Ertz? I feel like we have little to no strength at tight end minus Goddard. So he signed with the Washington Commanders, actually. So Dallas Goddard, obviously the number one for Philadelphia at the tight end spot. And then the battle for number two is pretty interesting. You have Grant Calcaterra, Albert Okwuegbunam, CJ Uzomah. I actually don't hate the backup tight end depth. CJ Uzomah's been in the league for a long time. You know what he can bring to the table. Can Grant Calcaterra or Albert Okwuegbunam really break out? And can they be that serviceable backup? Because both of them, the young players, gifted pass catchers. Uzomah, more of the big, bulky, body blocking type of tight end. Paul, got to spin it for you. We'll spin that wheel for Paul. See what we land on here. Or no, this is for Dennis and Paul, because Paul's a real one as well. Let's see. 20 push-ups. All right, making us work. Yeah, you can go, Cam. 20 push-ups. After the push-ups, we'll get to segment number 2. Live, Eagles Now. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Let's get it. Let's get it. So we're $30 away from beating our number last week in Super Chats. $30 away from beating our number last week. Another mailbag call. We'll do a mailbag after the second segment. So if you want to get on the show, get involved, get your questions featured on the program, as Pat McAfee would say, use the hashtag Eagles or send in a Super Chat. Chip, what do we have coming up segment number 2, my man?
We got an exciting one. We talked about some trade targets earlier. Now we're talking about guys on the team right now who could have a huge year in 2024. Some breakout candidates. I'll have my own breakout candidate as well at the end.
Chip's going to make an appearance on the show, and I don't know who it is.
Surprise.
I told him to surprise me. So I have 4 breakout candidates, and Chip has 1 breakout candidate. That's coming up right now on today's Philadelphia Eagles Now. Welcome into the show. This is Philadelphia Eagles Now by Chat Sports. I am Chase Sr. Hope everybody out there is having a fantastic weekend. On the docket for today, minicamp is over. And the next time that the Philadelphia Eagles will get together as a team, training camp at the end of July. So we're going to go through some players who could pop off this upcoming season as 2024 breakout candidates. Our rule here on the show, we're not going to include rookies. I think that doesn't make any sense because we don't know if a rookie can break out or not. So year 2 and beyond, those are the breakout candidates for today's show. And if you're pumped up for the Philadelphia Eagles 2024 season, OTAs the last couple of weeks, mandatory minicamp this week, we got to talk about some football and see this roster take shape. That has me juiced. If you're with me, hit that thumbs up icon right now. Breakout candidate number 1 for the Philadelphia Eagles in 2024, Jordan Davis, the defensive tackle, and the former first-round pick from the draft a couple of years ago, back in 2022. Why I think that Davis could break out, he is a mountain of a man. He is a Goliath. He is one of one as far as his size, weight, and physical attributes. All he needs to do, in my estimation, to break out and to have a career year and to live up to those first-round expectations for when the Eagles moved up to take him on that eventful draft back in 2022, when the Eagles also that night traded for A.J. Brown, he just needs to be in shape. And it's not like his numbers and his production have been awful his first 2 years, but the issue that has remained constant with him is that he hasn't been in good enough shape and hasn't had the stamina or the energy levels sustained to the point where he can be a 3-down player and play more than 50% of the snaps, because he hasn't come close to doing that really consistently his first 2 years in the NFL. But you point back to the production. Jordan Davis in 2022, the Pro Football Focus numbers to the left, and then in 2023, the PFF numbers to the right. Anytime that you're above 70, that is really solid production. And Davis has had an overall Pro Football Focus grade north of 70 his first 2 years in the NFL. As a rookie, overall grade of 71.4, a run defense grade of 71.8, that's supposed to be his strong suit, a pass rush grade of 59.4. He did not have any sacks during his rookie year, and he only played 224 total snaps. He did suffer that ankle injury when it seemed as though he was starting to find his stride, and maybe that stalled his development a little bit as a young player. But then he comes back year 2, and he was in slightly better shape, but it's not like he was in superb shape, and he even admitted at the end of the year he wore down and he got tired. Now, the overall Pro Football Focus grade, 70.5, pretty good. Run defense grade does go down, though, at 62.2, and I just don't understand how that, when you're that size, you can't be better against the run. But again, the Eagles defense was so bad last year, as we've talked about over and over here on the show, it's hard to gauge which players were good and which players were bad because the scheme was so awful. Pass rush grade of 67.3. He did notch 2.5 sacks, and his snap load did go up to 519. Davis did say that going into mandatory minicamp, he's down 20 pounds. And his key and sole focus this offseason was being able to have more stamina and be able to last throughout the rigors of an entire football season. I also think that Vic Fangio can really help him. Devin White from minicamp said that Fangio has been throwing a lot towards these Eagles defensive players as far as the scheme. And it's a complex scheme for sure. But given Fangio's intelligence, given his smarts, his football acumen, and the way that he's been able to maximize players, I think that he can do that with a couple of young players on this team. I will also say this about defensive tackles. Sometimes it takes them a couple of years to fully find their stride. Chris Jones right now is the best defensive tackle in the game for the Kansas City Chiefs. And I think for the last couple of years, he's been better than Aaron Donald. Obviously, Aaron Donald retired, so that can be past tense. But his first year, he played 16 games, only had 2 sacks. Year 2, it went up to 6.5 sacks. Year 3 was the breakout for Chris Jones when he had 15.5. And then I pull up Fletcher Cox's numbers here. He was an interesting player because right from the jump, he had 5.5, then he had 3, then 4, then 9.5. So to have that career year, sometimes for these DTs, it just takes a little while, and hopefully for JD, it happens in 2024, year 3. Breakout candidate number 2, his running mate at defensive tackle in Jalen Carter. Some of you might say, Chase, you're cheating. He broke out last year. Did he, though? Why Carter could be a breakout candidate this year, and what I mean by this is that there were moments in which Carter dominated. I think this year in 2024, he has the potential, he has the talent to be up in that category with Chris Jones as one of the most dominating defensive tackles in all of football, and he could dominate all year long. Not just half of it like he did last year, where he was almost a non-factor at the end of the year, and at points he got benched by Philadelphia. What I like about Carter, what I like about Davis, they have admitted we could be in better shape. They have admitted we can work on our conditioning. Here's what Carter had to say this offseason about his offseason. It's been a lot of conditioning. Really, I'd like to be more conditioned than working on technique because we have all year for technique stuff. We work on our technique every day in practice with our hands, working on pass rushes and stuff like that. But you really don't work on conditioning a lot. But I did more conditioning than I did hand movement and some of the stuff like that. Carter in 2023, very impressive numbers. Overall Pro Football Focus grade of 89. A run defense grade of 68.4. So he can make some strides there. A pass rush grade elite at 85.9. He tallied 49 pressures, 38 quarterback hits, 6 sacks as a rookie, but he only played 48% of the snaps. Fletcher Cox last year played 59% of the snaps. I want to see Jalen Carter break out and play 60%. And with that, are we talking double-digit sacks? I think so. And if that's the case, that's a breakout 2024 campaign. Next up, Isaiah Rodgers, the corner. He didn't play it all last year. And even when he put forward good production in 2022 with the Indianapolis Colts, he didn't even play that much. I think this year he could have a key role in this Eagles secondary and have a career year. He's been really good during OTAs, really good in minicamp. He's been getting first and second team reps at OTAs and minicamp. And as you look ahead to training camp at the end of July, I think he could have an opportunity to start opposite of Darius Slay if he continues to play well. And of course, it's going to be battling with some other really talented corners on this team. Kelee Ringo, Quinion Mitchell, I think James Bradberry, not going to be a part of that equation. You look back to what Rodgers accomplished in 2022 before the gambling suspension. The keynote here, 283 coverage snaps. So this is a player who hasn't played a lot in his career. He could double that this year, easily. Overall Pro Football Focus grade of 82.1, a run defense grade of 75.5, a coverage grade of 81.5. What's weird here, he gave up a passer rating of 106.3, which is really high, but those numbers could be skewed because of the lack of coverage snaps. More to get to here on the show, including producer Chip's top breakout candidate. Stay tuned for that. But let's ask you this. Drop a name down below. Who is your top Eagles breakout candidate for the 2024 season? Today's Eagles Now is sponsored by Prize Picks, the best daily fantasy sports app in the game. You can get a $100 deposit match at prizepicks.com/CLNS and use the code CLNS. You could turn $10 into $1,000 in a single game watching your favorite sports this summer. You can make a Prize Picks lineup in as little as 60 seconds. You just need to pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you're locked in. There's always action on Prize Picks as well. This is the perfect time to try out something new as basketball is starting to wind down. Make sure you can try out esports. You can try out the WNBA with young stars like Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, and some OGs like Kelsey Plum and Breanna Stewart. But since the NFL isn't yet here and the NBA Finals are about to arrive, what we like, Game 1, Jason Tatum, more than a half point. That's the special. And a lot of times, Prize Picks will have these specials. Derek Lively, more than a half assist. And then Daniel Gafford, more than 6 rebounds. Win big money, withdraw your winnings. Playing Prize Picks is as easy as what we just showed you. Pick more, pick less. Pick Prize Picks today. Breakout candidate number 4 for the Birds is cornerback Kelee Ringo. 4th round pick of the 2023 draft. The Eagles moved up to take him out of Georgia after he slid down draft boards, after he struggled a little bit for the Georgia Bulldogs that year. But before the season, some people were looking at Kelee Ringo as a potential 1st or 2nd round pick, and the Eagles saw a lot of potential in him, which is why they surrendered a future 3rd for him. Ringo, a mandatory minicamp winner, and an OTA winner to a certain degree because he didn't show up for week 1. He showed up for week 2. He started on the first-team defense. And then at mandatory minicamp, he was getting first-team reps. And on that first team, outside corner, opposite of Darius Slay, making plays on the football, and had good ball skills, showed off the long speed. And the first-team reps, it tells me something. He's getting first-team reps. Isaiah Rodgers, Quinion Mitchell. That means that Vic Fangio is trying to figure out, who do we like opposite of Darius Slay? We might like all of them. And that's a good problem to have when you're that deep at the cornerback spot. But those 3 players specifically, clearly the Eagles are trying to find out more. Last year as a rookie, Ringo only had 116 coverage snaps. So it's difficult to gauge how well he played. I thought he had some good moments on tape. Other moments, maybe he was a little bit lost. overall Pro Football Focus grade of 64.5, a coverage grade 63.8. One thing that sneakily stood out to me about Ringo as a rookie, his ability to play the run and his willingness to make tackles in the run game. He showed awesome physicality, and that checks out with the run defense grade from PFF of 73.5. And a big reason why the Eagles took Ringo, some of the physical attributes and the pre-draft testing numbers and the size, the speed, all really intriguing to me. He's 6'1", he's 207 pounds, he ran a 4.36 40-yard dash, and he earned a relative athletic score of 9.67. Those are the numbers in the green. As for the numbers in the red and yellow, that's the vertical leap and the broad jump. Now, sometimes you want corners who test well in that area because it shows off explosiveness, both laterally and vertically, and sometimes you need that from the cornerback position. But either way, this is a really good athlete here who has been showing off throughout this offseason that 4.3 speed, because during minicamp, tracking down the football, some pass breakups, and he's running stride for stride with John Ross and Paris Campbell. I know those players are injured a lot. They could still run fast, though. And if Kelee Ringo is able to maintain that speed with those players, that 4.3 speed, it is translating. So these are my 4 Eagles breakout candidates for 2024. Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, Isaiah Rodgers, and Kelee Ringo. Now I'm going to welcome on producer Chip. This was a surprise to me. I didn't know which player he was going to go with, but I'm very excited he's going with this player. And that is Nolan Smith, the first-round pick from last year's draft out of Georgia, who, without Hassan Reddick, him getting traded to the New York Jets, is going to take on, Chip, a more sizable role. Why do you like Nolan Smith to break out this year?
Yeah, so look, you're going to have, more likely than not, Josh Sweat, Bryce Huff, your starting edge rushers.
Yep.
But in Vic Fangio's defense, players are going to be moving around all over the place. And heading into year 2, I think Nolan Smith, after not getting much burn last year, really has a chance to show why he was that first-round pick, right? You know, coming out of Georgia, a very athletic player, a player with a lot of upside, right? Not quite developed all the way there yet, but in the Hassan Reddick mold of that athletic, quick, fast, screaming off the edge rusher. And this season, you know, he's had a year and now a full off season of working with, you know, NFL coaching, being coached up by the likes of, you know, Josh Sweat, Brandon Graham, a lot of vets on this Eagles defense that can teach him how to use those athletic abilities and turn those into pass rushing moves and pass rushing wins and really develop a skill set of moves, counter moves, and all that. I think this year, you know, he might not reach, you know, double-digit sacks or maybe, you know, 15 sacks. I think in his future that could come. But I think we could see this year him get a lot more run and him really be able to show why he was that Hassan Reddick replacement, right? Now Reddick is gone. He can step in. I think he has the highest upside of any Eagles edge rusher on this team. Could that come through this year? I think it could. Again, very talented player. Wouldn't be surprised if he has a massive, massive season.
Love how you went with Nolan Smith as breakout candidate number 5. And I like the reasoning behind why he can take that leap in year 2. You mentioned playing time. Barely played last year. You're completely right. 91 pass rush snaps. Had to deal with that shoulder injury. He got that operated on this offseason. And because of the lack of snaps, Chip, it's hard to gauge how well he played. 53.7 Pro Football Focus pass rush grade. He only had 1 sack, 5 hurries, 8 total pressures. But working off of that, what did he say he did this offseason? Got the shoulder operated on, added some weight. And why did we like this pick right from the jump? The twitch, the first step, the bend. And naturally, with more playing time, I think that the game will slow down for him and he'll be able to produce. You look at the RAS score for him in the pre-draft process, a 9.20, but the pre-draft testing numbers were so similar to Hassan Reddick. And I think the Eagles had that foresight. We might not have Hassan Reddick for 2024. That ended up coming to fruition. So let's take a player very similar. A 41.5-inch vert, a 10-foot broad jump, and at 238 pounds, I believe. Yes. A 4.39 40-yard dash. So this is a player with twitch, who has a lot of quickness, who can be a force coming off the edge.
And look, there's a reason the Eagles were comfortable letting Reddick go and didn't want to pay him all that money. They feel confident. That tells me the fact that they wouldn't pay us on Reddick, that Nolan Smith can come in and be in that mold and be more productive with more opportunity than he was last season.
Yes, sir. Grade our list of Eagles breakout candidates: Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, Kelee Ringo, Isaiah Rodgers, Nolan Smith. A, B, C, D, or F. Thanks for watching the show. Nolan needs to bulk up from Dennis Designs. There's no doubt about that. Definitely needs to bulk up. But according to him, he was able to do that this offseason.
A lot of Georgia players on our list right there. 3 of them.
Yeah.
That's what that program does.
Georgia Bulldogs. Hopefully they become Philly Dogs.
Actually, 4 of them.
Millie 315. Yeah, including Ringo.
Yeah.
Sneaky one. Millie 315. Breakout candidate John Ross or Jalix Hunt. All right, I dig it. Dragon giving us an A there. Keaton Bill. Cherokee Reservation guy. What's good, brother? Good to see you again. We're $30 away from matching our number from last week's show in Super Chats. Can we beat that number? We have a mailbag to get to. Then I owe a beer bong for Dennis Designs. 120. Can we beat it? You send in a $10 Super Chat. We talk about a player who you want to discuss. $20, we spin the wheel. $50 for a beer bong. $100 for a shotgun. Let me do this. $100, I will do a beer boot. $100, I will do a beer boot. And that would get us to $190 in Super Chats. Dennis Designs, Milton Williams. He wants him to show up. Great breakout candidate right there. Just haven't heard much from him during OTAs or minicamp. Last call for our mailbag segment. Get on the show, use the hashtag Eagles, or send in a Super Chat. That's the hashtag Eagles, or send in a Super Chat. Last call to get those questions in.
Last call. Another name I was thinking of going with, and we talked about a lot of defense because the offense is so set in stone.
Yeah.
I like the John Ross. Apparently he's been solid so far.
He's really never broken out.
Yeah. But, I mean, I'm looking inside, show some love to the trenches. Cam Jurgens, Tyler Steen. I think at least one of them could rise to being near a Pro Bowl level player this year. I mean, Stoutland compared Steen to Brandon Brooks.
Yep.
And that is some high praise.
Yeah, I mean, we could have gone maybe with 10 guys. I mean, we had 5 right there. Milton Williams, 6. Tyler Steen, 7. Could you go Cam Jurgens? Number 8?
I was thinking Nakobe Dean passed through my mind.
Nakobe Dean at number 9. He's just been getting second-team reps. I think they're trying to ramp him up from the foot injuries, but let's say that's number 9.
And then shoot, if Sidney Brown can come back from his injury.
Sidney Brown. Millie 315 said John Ross. That could be 10. Look, I just need John Ross to stay healthy. Like, I've seen this story before with Quez Watkins. Speed burner, popping off during OTAs, minicamp, and training camp, and then the physicality gets popping with the pads popping during the season, and Quez Watkins nowhere to be found. He's in the witness protection program.
I like what Millie said. Dallas Goedert.
Carol Hosey just joined in. What have you heard on Kendall Milton? Love you, Chase. Thank you. Love you, too. Haven't heard anything on Kendall Milton. There is a photo of him that we had, that Reed Blankenship, Devin White photo. And what really stands out about Kendall Milton, he's jacked. He's a big dude. Look how cut he is. Those are some biceps right there. That's a physical running back. And at Georgia, he found the end zone a lot around the goal line. But that's a big dude. So once the pads do come on and he can show off the physicality, I'd like to see what he's able to do. OTA's minicamp, it might be difficult for a player like that when there's no tackling. All right, let's round out with our mailbag here.
Last chance. Mailbag starting now. You want a question in there? Last opportunity. Super chat to guarantee it. That's the start of the show.
Dennis Designs, I wish Goddard could get to 1,000 yards. I don't know this year. There's too many mouths to feed. All right, mailbag segment coming up right now, taking your super chats as well as your questions. A lot of good ones coming in from everybody. 9 likes away, by the way, from 100. Can we get the stream to 100 likes? Hit that thumbs up icon, like the video, and let's answer your questions. Coming your way on today's Philadelphia Eagles Now by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Senior. Hope all of you out there having a phenomenal weekend. We're talking birds with the Bird Gang, all of our loyal subscribers, as we take the audience's questions as well as their hot takes and their analysis, allowing them to be a part of the show and drive the ship as well. If you enjoy our mailbag segments, which involve you, we love being an interactive YouTube channel that involves the fan and you being able to voice your opinions and ask your questions, because without you, our success wouldn't be possible here on YouTube. Then type me down in the comment section right now. We start off with one of our legends in Paul. Do you think that if we make the playoffs with Jason Kelce still in the building, he'll put the pads back on for a chance at the Super Bowl? This is so fun to talk about just because of the hypothetical nature of it. Jason Kelce, best Eagles center of all time, arguably the best center in the history of the NFL, the personality, the leadership, him smashing beers off the field at the OD&C aisle, just being a man's man and a Philadelphia icon. I know that he's been on the practice field and helping this organization, and throughout the offseason, players were talking about how he was around every single day. Look, if the Eagles are successful and they have a really good year and they make a Super Bowl run or a deep playoff run, part of that success is going to be because they had Cam Jurgens at center and hopefully Tyler Steen at right guard, because those are two players who are important to the future success of the Philadelphia Eagles. You're not going to bench them for Jason Kelce, who hadn't played all year. It just wouldn't happen. But can he travel with the team? Can he be on the sideline? Can he have a coach's polo on and get the boys pumped up to be Jeff Stoutland's assistant coach? I'm cool with that, because at that point in the playoffs, he's not going to have to fulfill his Monday night duties after the wild card round. Dennis Designs, $20 super chat. Okay, Chase, please give me Avonte Maddox's Pro Football Focus numbers and let me know how many Pro Bowls, MVPs, or any other noteworthy claims he has to his name. It is just crazy to me that we can't do better than him. Well, Dennis, I will say this. The Eagles have the deepest secondary that I can remember in a really, really long time. They're definitely a couple of players deep at outside corner. In the slot, you have Tyler Hall and Avonte Maddox. Maybe you're a little bit thin there, but can I interest you in Cooper DeJean playing slot nickel? I'd really like to see that happen, because I think that DeJean could really be a playmaker as a player who you can use all around the field, including that slot nickel role. The athleticism, the instincts, making plays on the football. He had 7 INTs at Iowa. 3 went back for touchdowns, so he's a big play threat. He credited his awareness as a defensive back to him playing quarterback in high school, because it allows him to see and process the game. I'd go Cooper DeJean, starting slot nickel, if he's able to develop. But let's give credit where credit is due. Avonte Maddox, when healthy, has been a good player in this league. The issue, he's pretty much played one full season since coming into the league in 2018. 13 games played, 12, 10, 16, 9, and 4. So when you're playing 13 games the last 2 years, especially when he was making some decent coin, that's a problem. But now he's making a vet minimum salary. So that 2021 season, he was pretty good. And you asked for the Pro Football Focus grades. I'll give them to you here. Overall grade of 72.8. Pass rush grade of 79.9. He can do that sneakily. And then a coverage grade of 76.2. And then in 2022, injury-shortened season, he was still well above league average in those 9 games. He had a coverage grade of 70.3, pass rush grade of 77.6, and an overall grade of 71.3. I think a reason why you and many others are very frustrated with Davante Maddox, he's been injured far too much. But now, he's barely making any money. Paul, another one. What are your opinions about a comeback tour with tight end Zack Ertz, the legend? I feel like we have little to no strength at tight end minus Dallas Goedert. So Zack Ertz signed with the Detroit Lions in the lead up to the NFC Championship game after his free agency resulted in him not latching on with the team until prior to the NFC title game after he was let go by the Arizona Cardinals. There were a lot of rumblings with Dallas Goedert injured that maybe the Eagles were going to bring back Zack Ertz. That's something that I thought could have made sense, a security valve for an offense that at that point became very, very stagnant. But this offseason, Zack Ertz, this may have fallen under the radar for some. He signed with the division rival, the Washington Commanders. Signed a 1-year deal there. So unless he gets let go, a comeback tour cannot happen. As for the backups behind Goedert, can Grant Calcaterra or Albert Okwuegbunam take that next step? You have CJ Uzomah, who's that big-bodied tight end who's more of a blocker and can catch balls from time to time. But Calcaterra and Okwuegbunam, very gifted athletes, very graceful movers in the open field. They both have to get better as blockers. Can the Eagles develop one of those two players? I hope so, because they can be used as weapons legitimately in this offense, and I'm always a fan of 2 tight end sets. Andrew Nathan, what do you think the holdup is with Howie trading James Bradberry? I think that he could easily find a pick swap or conditional pick trade for Bradberry. Do you think maybe the money makes it difficult? The money with Bradberry is interesting. Now that it's post-June 1, it obviously changes a little bit. If the Eagles were to cut him post-June 1, it would cost them $4.3 million in dead cap money. They save $0. If they were to trade him post-June 1, it saves them $3 million and then $1.2 million in cap savings. I don't think that's the holdup. The holdup could be for an acquiring team. They know that he has some decent money left on his contract. If the Eagles were to cut him, they can spread out some of that money. There is a roster guarantee of about $9 million this year for Bradberry. That could be an issue. But let's talk about the value. How much realistic value does James Bradberry have? He played so poorly last year, where his numbers in 2023 from the previous season when he was a second-team All-Pro fell off a cliff. So teams aren't willing to give up anything for a declining asset. And that's kind of the issue here with Bradberry. What do you get? 6th, 7th round pick? They might try him at safety and nickel and see what he can do there. If he can't play there and he can't play outside corner, maybe they just cut him altogether. Millie315, he's been with us for a long time, a real one here on the show. Who has a bigger impact this season, Vic Fangio or Kellen Moore? I think the offense has a higher ceiling, but the defense has more room to improve from last year. You put it in a perfect way, and that was the poll question during our live show, and it was very close. Which coordinator will have a bigger impact? 54% Vic Fangio, and then 46% Kellen Moore. So it's close. I'm with you. I think it's Fangio. The offense has so many pieces. The offense statistically last year was still a top 10 unit, even though they were so difficult to watch because of how vanilla and predictable they were. But I'm already expecting big things from the offense. The defense last year, though, was historically bad and one of the worst defensive units I have ever seen the Eagles put out on the football field. So I think that Vic Fangio can really elevate that defense. It's also a defense compared to the offense where you have Cam Jurgens, Tyler Steen, and Saquon Barkley as like new faces. Everybody else returns. On defense, though, you lose Hassan Reddick. You bring in Bryce Huff. You have C.J. Gardner-Johnson now. You have Devin White. You have a couple of young players who you need to develop. Last year, the secondary was awful. They couldn't stop a damn nosebleed. And so I think that Fangio can have the bigger impact this year for the reasons that you mentioned. Great minds think alike. You know what's great? The deal on this Eagles shirt, the Brotherly Shove shirt. We promoted this a couple of times here on the show because so many people are getting these nationwide and worldwide, and I had to get one myself. Only $22. Just a straight-up steal for the best, most dominated, and most underrated play in football. Chatsports.com/brotherlyshove. Get yours today. That link is down below in the show notes and in the comment section of today's show. Andrew Nathan again. What are your thoughts on trading for Matthew Judon? He's in the last year of his contract, cap hit of $14 million, but the Patriots would be on the books for $7 million. I mentioned him on our segment of post-June 1 trade targets. You are, I'm not going to say thin at edge rusher, but I have question marks there. Can Josh Sweat bounce back? Can Nolan Smith break out? Bryce Huff has had 1 year of production. Brandon Graham is old. So I have concerns a little bit at the edge rusher spot. Matthew Judon coming off a torn biceps, but he's been a highly productive player. Cap hit of $14 million. Patriots on the books for $7 million. Would I be interested in Matthew Judon on an expiring deal for $7 million? Yeah, I would. The only thing is he held out of OTAs because he wants a new contract. So is he willing to be a lame duck with Philadelphia on an expiring deal? Carol Hosey just joined the show. What have you heard on Kendall Milton? Love you, Chase. Thank you. I love you too. And thank you for watching the show. Haven't heard anything from Kendall Milton. If we're talking running backs, all of the talk has been around Saquon Barkley, rightfully and deservedly so, because he's a superstar running back when he's able to stay healthy. I think Kendall Milton, if he's able to impress people, it'll come during training camp when the pads are on and he can use his large, physical, strong frame to pick up yards on short yardage situations. OTAs and minicamp, you're not tackling. You're barely getting physical. Pads are not popping, so it's difficult to gauge what a player like that can do. The Razor, I know the defense as a whole was bad last year, but I'm down on Josh Sweat. Plus, I'm not sure how well he fits into the new scheme yet. What are your thoughts on his place on this line? Look, he had 11 sacks in 2022, got off to a solid start last year, and then the back half of the year, he was a non-factor. I think that went a long way in why the Eagles decided to restructure his contract. I'm with you too. I'm not sure how much of a scheme fit he is. To me, he's more of a 4-3 end. He's not really a 3-4 guy. And Vic Fangio is going to ask some of his edge rushers to drop back in coverage. Hopefully it's his own look if Josh Sweat has to drop back, because he's not going man for man with running backs coming out of the backfield or tight ends, that's for sure. I think this will be his last year in Philadelphia. Lion Fighter, do you think that things will be clunky with 2 new coordinators? It has to be a little. I think those are big reasons why the Eagles were just so up and down, inconsistent, and frustrating to watch last year, is because you had all of the new concepts, new playbook, you had 2 new coordinators, and they were both inexperienced. If there's one thing working for Fangio and Kellen Moore, it's the experience that they have. So they're not going to be overwhelmed. They've seen everything that the NFL game has to offer. They both have very, very impressive resumes. Starting off with the Green Bay Packers is difficult because I think that's a really good and underrated team. But things could be clunky, not as clunky as last year. Let's go with that. But again, the experience of Fangio and Moore could help them in that area. That's a great question. LFX, my guy. Andrew Nathan, do you believe that the reason we haven't signed Justin Simmons is because the Eagles are happy with the potential position change for Avonte Maddox to safety, or is he holding out for money? Eagles have money. They have $27 million, and there's no doubt that signing Justin Simmons makes you a better football team. I don't think that we've seen a massive decline in Justin Simmons' game. Talking about a four-time All-Pro. Vic Fangio knows him well. So what's the holdup? The holdup could be, okay, we have C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Reed Blankenship. Let's see what they look like at safety. Let's see how Avonte Maddox can hold up and see how he can perform at the safety spot. Let's try out James Bradberry. Let's get him on the field. Let's assess it. Let's scout it. Let's break down the tape. If the Eagles are not confident in the safety spot, that's when they make a move. And Howie Roseman has always been aggressive in improving his football team, but he wants context. He wants information to decide whether or not he has to improve the team. Justin Simmons could be asking for a decent amount of money. He could look at his resume and say, I lead the NFL in picks since 2016. I'm a four-time All-Pro. I'm a team captain. I played in multiple complex schemes. I've been highly productive and consistent. I don't think there's a slide in play like there was with Kevin Byard, who still got paid, by the way, by Chicago. He is getting a little bit older as Simmons, entering his age 31 season. But I think all those could be reasons for why he's not yet signed. And yeah, he could be looking for a back. Millie315, last question here. Which Birds defensive lineman or edge rusher has the most sacks this year? Could I go Jalen Carter with 10 and that leads the team? How about 10.5? 10.5 leads the team, and then you have a couple of other players who have like 8 to 10. I think that's fine. I'm not sure what to expect from Bryce Huff. He has 1 year of double-digit sack production and 1 year of really good production. Josh Sweat, Brandon Graham, not sure how much of a scheme fit they are. So Jalen Carter leads it with 10.5. That's my prediction. Subscribe so that you can watch our shows, so that you can be a part of our shows, so that you can ask me questions for thousands of people to see right here on Eagles Now. Thanks for watching. Always a blast opening up the floor and chopping it up with everybody. The Bird Gang is the best. So we are $30 away from tying our Super Chat number from last week. What I'm going to do right now, I'm going to go get my beer bong for Dennis Designs. If we get a $100 Super Chat, not only I'm going to erase the shotgun, I will do a beer boot if we get a $100 Super Chat. How about it? And then I'll do a shotgun for 50. But for now, I'm going to go get the beer bong for Dennis Designs. Here's Chip.
Uh-oh. Dennis. Beer bong coming up. Maybe a boot. Andrew Nathan, good show today. Appreciate you hanging out with us. And we're 4 likes away from 100. Carol, can't wait to see Carter, Davis, and Nolan light it up. That young trio, gonna be exciting. Gonna be exciting. What's up, Dragon? How we doing? Let's see if we got any more recent updates coming out of Eagles camp here. Let's see what we got. So Hurts struggled a bit again today. Again, still adjusting to a new playbook. Hurts missed 2 chances for long touchdowns. Missed both. First was a deep route to Goddard. Goddard had a step, the pass was off. Second one was to A.J. Brown. Play got flagged for offsides, but Brown got open. Hurts overthrew him. Also threw a pick to Reed Blankenship. Stepped in front of Davante Smith. Bad decision. Nearly picked off again by Cooper DeJean, who perfectly read Jalen Hurts, jumped the pass, and nearly came down with it. Did have a dime to Dallas Goedert, who was covered well by DeJean, but placed perfectly along the sideline to Goddard. The defense continues to dominate practice so far, which is a good sign, I think. I think that's a great sign. You want to see this defense step up under this new coordinator, Vic Fangio, after a bad year last year. So good to see the defense with a lot of moving pieces and some young guys and a new scheme already starting to get acclimated. But again, offense also dealing with new scheme, No Jason Kelce. Again, having to rework some things there after the fall off they had at the tail end of last year. Will Shipley has had an active day catching the ball out of the backfield. That's what Will Shipley's going to do. Will Shipley's going to be a guy who should be able to catch a lot of passes, has a lot of skill there as a receiver. Showed that at Clemson a lot. Very talented receiver. And with the ball in his hands. Currently rebranding. I want my defense to win camp, to be honest. Yeah, I like to see the defense win camp. Excuse me. Because we know the Eagles' offense is how talented they are, and the playmakers they have, and how good Hurts and Brown and Smith and Goddard and that O-line are. If this defense can come out and put together good performances in camp against the offense, shoot, that's a great sign. Eagles will be ready for the season. I think the Eagles will come out at the start of the year and play really good ball because of how last year ended. I think they know that they need to set the tone. They can't come out flat this year because then it's just going to get piled on. All the concerns they had and the media and the fan, it's just going to get even worse if they come out flat. So they have to be able to come out strong. Shipley maybe or McCaffrey. Not quite that level, but maybe McCaffrey light. He can do some things in the receiving game. Not like McCaffrey, though. I don't think he ever will. Just not quite the athlete, not quite as fluid, but definitely talented.
So Dennis was always a beer bat guy.
Yeah?
Yeah, Dennis Designs was a beer bat guy. We got the beer bat back for Dennis. Beer bat back for Dennis. No super chats when I was gone. Very sad.
Very sad.
$30 away from matching our number from last week. I told the bosses that we would beat it. They might be disappointed in me. They might fire me. Hopefully not, and hopefully I'll see everybody tomorrow. Either way, Dennis Designs, beer bat. Let's get it. It's blending in with the green screen, which is crazy.
It's weird. We go chug, 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 chug. Woo! Let's go. Go Phils!
Woo! Go Phils. Go Phils, dude.
Go down to the bank, dude.
Woo! Afternoon beer bat.
Nothing like it. Nothing like
LFG. All right, should we sign off? Y for yes, N for no.
Carol, the cap space we have, what moves do you think we make? Sign Justin Simmons. Make it happen.
Y for yes, N for no. Oh! Dennis Designs a $50 super chat. I don't want you to get fired. Go Panthers. Dennis, what do we do for the 50?
I could download something.
I did say shotgun. What do you want us to do, Dennis?
What do you want, Dennis?
Everybody type DD in the chat. Antonio Holmes, what's good, my brother? I like how Antonio always keeps it a buck. Always keeps it 100 in the comment section. What do you want us to do there, Dennis? Chip said that he can do something, too.
Get in on the action on this wet Wednesday.
Wet and wacky and wild Wednesday. Chip beer bat.
I'll do a little beer bat.
All right. Chip beer bat coming up. It's like a Star Wars wand. Zhoo, 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 zhoo. Oh, yeah? Nice. Chip beer bat coming up as Dennis Designs, today's Super Chat MVP. Let's see. Any other updates that we can pass along from Eagles practice? In case you're just joining us, Eagles worked on the new kickoff format today, and it was in front of the media for the first time. So plenty of guys getting returning reps. Britton Covey, Aniyah Smith, Kenny Gainwell, Ty Davis-Price, Kendall Milton, and John Ross. Grant Calcaterra, Will Shipley both saw a high volume of targets today. Calcaterra has had a nice spring competing for the second tight end spot. A lot of rotation in the starting secondary. Kelee Ringo, Quinion Mitchell, Isaiah Rodgers rotated periods at outside corner. Mitchell also got some reps as the pseudo linebacker in dime again. Kelee Ringo, another nice day. 3 straight reps against John Ross that were especially impressive. Final one was a pass breakup. Nice job of staying patient, under control against a speedster like Ross. That coming from E.J. Smith. And then Elliott Shore-Parks giving Jalen Hurts a C grade today after a B grade yesterday. Hurts was 15 of 20, no touchdowns and a pick. Them adjusting to a new playbook has definitely caused some hiccups. Most of Hurts' completions were checkdowns. He had 2 chances for long touchdowns but missed both throws. One of them was to A.J. Brown. Got intercepted by Reed Blankenship. He threw it right to him underneath. All right, Chip with the beer bat, then we'll sign off. Blending in with the wall. Dennis Designs. Dennis Designs. Dennis Designs. Carol Hosey, that's what I said. Looks like a lightsaber. Antonio, yeah, tough to trust Calcaterra with the concussion history. Alberto, not much. Really good athlete. Hasn't always translated, though. Chip, beer bat. Going down the hatch. Type chug Chip. It's a wacky Wednesday on Eagles Now. Millie315, Dennis typing that chug. And there it goes. Shoo, shoo, shoo. Let's go. Thank you, Dennis, for being our Super Chat MVP today. We beat our number from last week with the 140 in supers. It's awesome. Good stuff. Millie315, enjoy your evening as well. Hope everybody also has a great weekend. Content still to come every single day because that's the standard. For Chip, I'm Chase. For the Bird Gang, the Eagles Now crew is out. See you next time. Peace.